Hello, everyone. Welcome to Redefining Our Worth for Black women reclaiming self love across generations. My name is Marissa Price. I am a liberatory life coach. I'm a healing practitioner. I'm a digital business strategist for sensitive Black women, building right as we heal. And yes, my YouTube channel is Marissa Price Heals. So please subscribe to my channel if you're interested in conversations like this, where we sit down and connect on a deeper level, information, resources on your healing journey. Please, yeah, come into the community, subscribe, share, like all the YouTube terms. But I have a wonderful guest with me here today, Colette Elizabeth. I will pass it over to her to introduce herself and tell us about her YouTube channel.
Well, I'm going to just keep it short and simple. I'm Colette Elizabeth. I am a happily retired 60-year-old mother of two adult children. I have a YouTube channel where I really pull for Black women. I want us to win in all things, and all things, and all things, and some more things, the way we want to win. I believe in uplifting each other as much as we can. And I also believe in pouring into ourselves and healing ourselves. So this conversation is something that I'm really looking forward to.
Yes, I'm excited. And if you missed part one of our conversation, please check that out too. Let me see if I can link it here real quick.
Okay.
This is part two of, let me get the link real quick, of a conversation just like on intergenerational healing
Yes.
in dialogue, which I don't think we have enough of, to be able to just share across generations what is happening, things that we've learned, information, resources we can share with each other. So that is the purpose of this conversation today. It's part two. Hello, Sade. Good to see you as always. Thank you for being here. And yes, Colette will also be a speaker at the upcoming 2026 Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women coming up May 1st through the 3rd. So I'll put the link to the wait list here in the chat if y'all like to get on the wait list. As we are building, planning, preparing behind the scenes, over 20 Black women speakers coming in to share knowledge, resources, wisdom, practical strategy to help us build and prepare in these times that we're in. So please get on the wait list here. But I do want to start by asking the question. Let me get to my questions. When you reflect on our first conversation, Colette, that we had, which was very deep, I'm still reflecting on it to this day.
Yeah.
Anything that has stayed with you or has shifted in your thinking since that conversation that you like to share?
We talked about so many different things that I find to be valuable as it relates to becoming who we really want to become, or who we were before and we stopped being because life happened. So I think the thing that I have been thinking about is what next.
Ooh.
There's always sometimes we go through our lives and we think that I should have did this, I should have did that, and I should have did it this way, I should have did it that way. And sometimes we kind of beat ourselves up over things. At least I know I
Yeah.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what I am looking at is, instead of saying what could I have done differently, just appreciating the journeys, the various journeys, because we all have different journeys, in our lives that we're going through at the same time. And just
Mm-hmm.
saying, you know what, that happened that way. And what's the next thing? And the reason why I feel that way is because even though I just turned 60, as you know, I have two daughters. They're they're Gen Zs. One is 28 and one is 25. And my oldest daughter and I were having a conversation, and she's in the process of applying or getting accepted to different PhD programs.
Oh.
And she actually got into quite a few. But her and I were talking, and she's like me. She thinks a lot, right? And I should have been here. I should have been. And I'm like, you're where you need to be, and whatever
Mm-hmm.
decision you make as far as PhD programs, because she got into an Ivy, so
Okay.
So she's probably
Yay.
more. It's going to be the right decision. And whether you choose the Ivy or whatever you choose is going to be the right decision. So for you, it's what's next.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do anything about what happened before, right? We can't change it. We can learn from it. We can build on it if it's something that we find to be helpful. But what's next?
Mm-hmm.
The next chapter.
I
What's the
love
next?
that.
That next chapter starts with the next page. That page starts with the first sentence. That sentence starts with the first word. So what next?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
that's it. Yeah.
And that's
What
something I
about?
found too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the like I almost look at it like a GPS, right? Like it will reroute you. Life will reroute you to the place that you're supposed to be. And so there's not like a wrong decision, right? Because the path will just like kind of morph into something that you maybe you didn't even expect, and you'll go on
Yeah.
these like different pathways like to eventually get you to where you needed to be the entire time, even if you didn't have that in your thoughts or imagination when you first started off on the journey.
Right.
So that's so
Right.
true.
Right. And for
Hmm.
me, I'm a Christian, so as the biblical belief is all things work together for the good, you
Hmm.
know. And
Hmm.
that's even the hard stuff, the painful stuff, the stuff that, we don't want to experience it again. Somehow we can learn something from it, right?
Yes.
Whether it's, going through a divorce, I've gone through two, okay?
Hmm.
Whether it's leaving a toxic job, something we talk about all the time, we still are able to take some jewels from those things and apply those. And if we don't apply them in our own lives, we can apply and help other women apply them. You know, not telling folks what to do, but sharing our lessons that we have learned. Um, so,
That's so true. That's what I have in my notes for the first question too. Something that has stayed with me is how much of a responsibility I feel to share what I've learned with younger women, right? Because there was so much that I was not prepared for.
right.
Um, and just trying, like at this age in my early 30s, being like, okay, I kind of got an understanding a little bit of this life
Mhm,
thing. How can
mhm.
I share information like this is what you need to look out for? These are the lies that society will try to feed you,
That's right.
to have like a really deep rooting of self as you're navigating these things. And that's something that has like stuck out from our conversation.
Yes.
Like the question about what type of ancestor do I want to be? I've been sitting with that still. And I want to be someone who shares resources, who doesn't hoard information, but anything that I learn, anything that I metabolize, I want to be able to like share that with
Mhm.
generations coming up because so much is kept from us still between generations. And I would love to be able to like eliminate some of those barriers that
Yeah.
exist.
Yes. I think that um, our culture, our African American culture, particularly, I feel like my mom's generation and my grandmother's generation, and I grew up with my grandmother, both of my grandmothers, both of my all my grandparents, I should say. I grew up with my great grandmother, my great great grandmother as well, and
Hmm.
so we're talking about people who had to keep things what they call it close to the vest
Yeah.
for survival, and
Hmm.
they didn't always share things, and they also played a dual role of surviving and then protecting their children and their loved ones. So a lot of times I feel like information was gate kept, okay, in our culture specifically to protect us from things. When it, you know, and hindsight is 2020. Sometimes those are things we probably should have known
Yeah.
because we could have learned from many of the lessons, the hard, painful lessons that our ancestors learned. And I'm just actually learning some things about some of the things that my family has gone through. So, getting back to what you said as far as sharing, I feel like I don't want I don't want the world to be harder for those who come behind me unnecessarily so.
Yes. Uh huh.
So I want people to be able to, and maybe when they get the information, they don't realize it's a lesson. Maybe they don't realize it's a jewel. Maybe it may not even be a jewel. But I want people to be able to be okay, to be better than okay. So I retired from management. I was in management for over 20 years. And
Mhm.
one of the things, and I managed managers. I led supervised managers who then supervised staff. And one of the things I would always share with the managers who reported to me is, listen, I'm here preparing you to replace me, to
Mhm.
take the torch. I don't plan to be here forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when it comes to sharing knowledge, I see it the same way as when it comes to sharing knowledge with those who come behind us, giving them the torch, but
Yeah.
not only opening up the gate, but giving them the key, because sometimes you don't know what needs to happen with that gate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Um,
do.
we we have to be mindful that information without proper context is can be harmful.
Mhm.
See it with the
Mhm.
AI situation, right? So
Oof.
I can give you
Yes.
information, right? I can give you lessons that I've learned, but without me giving you a context to how I see it, it's not helpful for you, because you're going to need to contextualize it for your own life and from your own perspective so that you
Right.
can appropriately apply it. You, me, and it doesn't, when I say younger people, it's not even necessarily an age thing, because I'm learning from you. I watch your channel. I learn from, Alicia Renice. I learned from, Stephanie. I learned from Rashida, and all those people are younger than me. I learned from, of course, Dr. Kamani. And so what I mean is, when we give that hand and give that information, allowing the room for people to experience that information based on their own personal positioning and their own personal perspective, their own personal belief systems, and just where they are at that point in time.
Mhm.
Yes,
That's so important.
I think
Yes.
so.
And what's like sitting with me is yes, information without context can be harmful.
Very,
That's really powerful.
very,
Ooh.
very.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's just bringing to mind like some of the things that were shared with me, right, growing up, and not being able to attach it to an experience. And so it felt kind of overwhelming at first. And now at this age, I'm starting to be able to like put those two together. I have the life experience, right? Limited life experience still, but to be able to connect it to the lessons that people were trying to share with me before, um, has been really helpful just in my healing journey, right?
Mm,
Now being in my 30s. So that really resonated with me. Thank you.
yes, yes. And I'd imagine that. I mean, you said your short life, but you've experienced some things that somebody at my age maybe has not experienced in the same way. So even the things you've had to overcome, barriers, challenges, or whatever, the information, the techniques, strategies, whatever, that stuff could help me, right? Because
Mhm.
you may have dealt with something that I have not dealt with yet, or
Mhm.
I may deal with something similar, maybe not necessarily the same thing. So I think that that's why I remember when I before I retired, I used to do trainings on something called the 5 generations in the workplace. And many of the people who, now I'm considered a Gen Xer,
Mhm.
those born between 1965 and 1980. And then the baby boomers, who would be my parents, born between 1946 and 1964. Okay. And then after us, the millennials, born from 1981 to about 1999, depending on which demographer you look at. But I
Mhm.
remember when I would do those trainings, I'd hear many of the baby boomers saying, we got to deal with these millennials. And
Yes.
I, on the other hand, was excited. I'm like, oh, yeah,
Mhm.
they're great. Yeah, let's have them. So it's funny because I'm in the middle of those two generational cohorts, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
serve as a translator a lot of times. And what I see, um, as it relates to learning, is that you can learn from anyone.
Mm-hmm.
When you cut yourself off from learning from someone because they are younger,
Right.
you're hurting yourself because you're not allowing yourself to see maybe a blind spot that this other person sees.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's really important because we all have different gifts and things that, you know, we were born with, right? Skills, talents, and all those things, that some stuff we've worked on, right? To become competent in. And so the more information that you have, I think the better suited you are as it relates to any parts of your life. Now, if you don't want the information, that's okay too,
Mm-hmm.
but
That is so true. Yes. And growing up as a millennial, that is something we heard so often, right? That no one wanted to be around us. We were like irritating. We were like the social media generation because it had just like got started when we were in middle school for me,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
For younger millennials. To hear like all this criticism that was like levied against millennials growing up, like that had an impact on me.
Yeah,
And I'm sure like other people who heard that too. Yeah, like we were kind of like unwanted in a
right,
lot of spaces.
right,
So yes,
right.
that
And
resonates.
it's funny because you still hear some people say the millennials are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, okay,
Yes.
you getting your generations mixed up. The millennials are in their 40s, the older ones. They're in their 40s now. So
Yes.
what's going on here? What's really the issue? And just for context, when the Gen Xers came into the workplace, and we are the smallest generational cohort that ever existed. Okay,
Oh,
we are the smallest.
mm-hmm.
And when we came into the workplace, same thing, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They this, they that. So it's kind of like something that happens. But I think that again, if we look past the age, what generational cohort you're in, and look at what is this person bringing to the table? Maybe they're just bringing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
That's a gift.
It's a gift.
That's a gift. Yeah,
Mm,
it's a gift.
thank you. I'm gonna
Yes.
read a comment from Kiana. Hello. I want people to be better than okay. Yes. Quoting you.
Hey,
Yes. Yes.
hello.
And Sade says, right, that sounds like perfect leadership. Yeah, to be able to recognize the strengths in
Yes.
different generations. Like sometimes that's rare for a
Yeah.
leader to be able to do that. Mm-hmm.
And it was hard. I'm not saying it was easy because I had a lot of pushback because I was the only Gen Xer in upper management, the
Mm-hmm.
only.
Wow.
And so I was dealing with a lot of all baby boomers, and I was the only Gen Xer in management. And for me, it's just natural to look at your team and see who does what, right? And so I see that in life too, when I'm on any kind of team in any kind of collaborative type situation, you have to look at what everybody brings to the table. And again, sometimes all they're bringing is themselves, and I shouldn't say all they're bringing themselves because we are valuable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's important. So
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. Okay, moving to another question. What did your generation learn about worth? And what parts of that are you actively unlearning now?
ooh, I read that question and I said, oh, she coming with the fire. I kind of got mad when I read that question. That is you, but the stuff that my generation had to go through. So, just to give you a little background, my generation is the first generation of latchkey kids,
Mm, mm-hmm.
okay, in general, because you had um, during the 60s, and I'm an older Gen Xer. I was born in 66, right?
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, what did you have going on? You had the civil rights going on, you had women's lib, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and at that time, it was the first time in history you had quadruple divorce rates. So what you had
Mm.
is you had women leaving the household, right? And they had children, all right, that they had to care for. And daycares did not exist the way they do today. So as a child, I remember being 7 years old, even younger, walking home from school with my siblings, who I'm the oldest, who were all younger than me. You know, we
Mhm.
used to have the little notes pinned to our shirts, but it would be a bunch of us walking home from school, and
Mhm.
we would come home to an empty house. My mom was working and going to
Mhm.
school, so I was in charge at 7, 8 years old of my siblings. So that said, um, I had to be very resourceful. I had to make sure my siblings did their homework. If they didn't do their homework and do their chores, I got in trouble. So I was made a leader at a very young age, right?
Mhm.
In addition to that, I'm the first cohort, my generation and my age group, to experience forced busing.
Mm. Mm. Mhm.
So you're dealing with a bunch of social changes that as a child I had to deal with. I dealt with being called the N word as a little kid by grown adults while I
Wow.
was waiting for the school bus, right?
Mm.
And so you said, so what do we have to unlearn? So the thing I had to learn is that I had to be strong in every situation, not to cry,
Mm.
okay?
Mhm.
Figure it out. And most of all, to earn earn my way. I had to earn a star. I had to earn you did a good job. I had to earn, you know, I love you in some cases, I
Mm.
had to earn
Mhm.
those things. And so in my brain, I always was a high performer. I was a high performer at every single job I ever had,
Mm.
which put me at odds with a lot of people because a lot of the jobs I had, I was always usually the youngest one there. And
Mhm.
because I had that mindset of, oh, I got to produce, I was always out producing. I was
Mhm.
always out producing. And I had to unlearn that. I had to learn that my worth is not based on what I produce.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna tell you something. I retired, in December of 2021. And Marissa, when I when I retired in 2021, the first, I want to say, year,
Mhm.
the very first year, I was totally lost.
Mm.
You're,
Mhm.
you're talking about a person who I was divorced mom of two children, right?
Yeah.
They were involved in every type of extracurricular activity there is, and I am in senior leadership, so I'm
Mhm.
busy at work, I'm busy home. So that first year that I retired and I had nothing to do, I wasn't producing, I felt the biggest sense of guilt
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
felt like earning I was not earning and I was not producing. So I uh why am I tired? Oh, I forgot to say I slept the whole year. And I was like, oh, why? I felt guilty because I'm like,
Mm.
I should
Mhm.
be doing something. I should be doing something.
Right.
But I remember my therapist saying, Colette, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Take the nap.
Mhm.
She's like, take the nap if you want to take the nap. And I'm like, I can just take a nap? Take the nap.
Mhm.
Because you're talking to a person who got up, 4 or 5 in the morning to get the girls ready, going to school, going to work. And sometimes I would not drop in bed until 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that,
Right.
and then get up and do it all again. So just the very fact of being able to being worthy to take a nap without producing and earning, I couldn't believe it. So I had to
Mhm.
unlearn that my worth
Mhm.
is not attached to what I produce.
Wow.
And you'll find, I think, a lot of Gen Xers were that way because our parents were taught that. You figure, my 1966, when I was born, the Civil Rights Act, that was
Hmm.
just, and we had just become few, I believe, full humans the year before that. So I grew up with like I said, my mother, my grandmothers, both of my grandmothers. My grandfather was born in 1900, right?
Wow.
So we
Hmm.
talking about, it's not too far from slavery. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So those values of hard work, of producing, those were instilled in me.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Thank you
not
so much for
blaming
sharing
my
that.
family.
Hmm.
Yeah, not blaming my family. They're doing what they knew how to do to survive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. That's bringing up a lot. Something I have on my list, something I'm unlearning. Education is the great equalizer, right?
Oh,
Which, especially my generation, like millennial generation, we were taught like, and like to your point, after the integration of schools, right? Um, that we were supposed to be able to be in these integrated schools, get all this education, rack up the degrees, rack up the certifications, and that would be the pathway to not experiencing oppression in these environments, right? And as I've shared on my channel, that's simply not the case.
it's not.
Particularly as Black women in the workplace, when we do gain all these credentials, the target on our backs
That's
grows
right.
even bigger, right?
That's
And
right.
so we're left with kind of this, what do we do now? Because we were told that education was a pathway to be able to, I don't know, gain some type of like acceptance that we
Yeah.
should never have had to seek externally. Um, but it's just been like this thing that I've had to unlearn, right? That I don't need these things external to me to gain more and more and more of, and that it actually will not bring what so many of our, like in my generation, were told that it would, this acceptance, this approval, this validation, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Mm-hmm.
that, and that was in my generation too, because
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind, because we were considered the immediate benefactors of the
Yeah.
civil rights movement, the immediate, we were supposed to be okay, we did it all. So you guys have no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have no excuse not to. And, of course, we were taught, you got to work twice as hard to get half as far. Right. And so that was ingrained in our heads, education, education, education. And, not to fault baby boomers or the traditionalists, which would be my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were told, because a lot of what happens in the United States is all gaslighting.
Yes.
You couldn't vote because you can't read. Okay, now I can read. Why can't I vote? You couldn't vote because you don't own property. I own 300 acres. Now, why can't I vote? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what happened with the education piece. The education piece is we were locked out of many jobs, one, because we were Black, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't want to say because you're Black, right? Even when those civil rights laws passed, it was, you don't have the education. Okay, so what do? You know how we do it. Black people
Mm-hmm.
gonna do what we do. We gonna
Mm-hmm.
survive. And you tell us we need one nail, we gonna buy 10 because
Yeah.
we know you're gonna lift the bar. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why many of us, even though, like, even when I entered the workforce, I'll just use myself. I graduated from college in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I When I got out of college, a lot of the jobs, they required a 2-year degree. I got a
Mm-hmm.
4-year degree because I already
Mm-hmm.
knew what time it was, right? Plus, I had my parent, your family, they know, hey, you got to do A, B, C, and D, because we know that what is actually spoken is not what's actually practiced.
Yes. Ooh.
Billy Bob can have a GED certificate, and that's not putting people down. Okay. If you have a GED certificate, or if you don't have one, I'm not putting anybody down. But the point I'm making, he could have a certificate, no experience. I could have a 4-year college degree and 4 years of experience. When your application or your promotional thing says, hey, you only need A, B, C, and D. I can have above that, but they're going to give, and they used to give the job to Billy Bob.
Mhm.
But prior to that, their justification was always the education piece.
Mhm.
You know, the other
Mhm.
thing I don't think a lot of people realize is that a lot of times, because as we are Black women, we deal with not only the racial aspect of things, but we also deal with the the gender part of it.
Yes.
So even when I was going into the workplace, there was still a lot of, okay, but you're still a woman. You may get married, you may have children, and this type of job may require long hours, A, B, C, and D, you know.
Mhm.
And when you're like, I don't have children, well, you may get children. So it for you, going back to your question,
Mhm.
having to prove over and over again, one, that I'm worthy to be at this table,
Mhm.
and two, showing that I can outproduce anybody. And I'm gonna bring up this. I don't like this example, but I'm gonna bring it up. In the movie, remember 12 Years a Slave?
Mhm.
When I forgot what's her character? Lapita's character was
Mhm.
picked, she was picking Mark Cotton and the men.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's kind of what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
She did all that, but she was still enslaved.
Mhm. Yeah.
She did all that, but she was still enslaved.
Yeah. Mhm. Ooh. Thank you for sharing that. And Edna be lurking. I love this name. Thank you for sharing this. Rack up the debt too.
Yeah.
Student debt
Student debt
to get all these degrees,
to get all these
right?
degrees.
At this point, I'm over $70,000 in student debt as a first generation college student. But this
Hmm.
was sold to me as the path that I had to go on to
Hmm.
get the societal acceptance, to get the approval. And then again, racking up these degrees along with the debt, getting into
Yes.
workplaces where now people view me as even more of a threat because I have the degrees, I have the education. Um,
Yes.
Often we're smarter, honestly, we're more capable than so many people that we're in these rooms with, and that makes people upset and want to harm us, right?
Hmm.
All these
Hmm.
different things that we now have to grapple with. um, and so it's like a never ending battle that we're
Hmm.
fighting, right, over and over
Hmm.
again.
Hmm. Hmm. And don't forget, you said you have all the degrees and things. Don't forget, 9 times out of 10, you have the experience when you go into that job too, that the other ones don't have.
Mm-hmm.
You have the experience and the education, because what
Yes.
they tried to do in the middle of my period of time in the being in the workforce is they tried to do that old switcheroo where they say, okay, this many years of experience is equal this many years of the degree. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of um, the lesser melanated folks don't have college degrees,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but they may have experience in something else, and those folks get credit. We don't get the same credit, but they get credit for for example, if the job announcement says they want a 4-year college degree, 2 years of experience, this person may have 5 years experience and maybe a 2-year degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I it it's some stuff that happens, you know
Absolutely.
and that can mess with your worth, because you're wondering sometimes. I know we're just speaking in terms of the workplace right now, but you wonder, okay, I've done all this, I've done the things, I've checked all the boxes, and
Mm-hmm.
now, you know now I'm still having to show my worth. I'm still having
Yeah.
to prove I belong
Mm-hmm.
in this room at this table. I'm still having to do that. So you had asked me a question, what am I unlearning? I've unlearned that, but let me tell you what I want my younger sisters and brothers, and I teach my children, my girls, and they got it. I explain to them there's two things. One, the party or the meeting is not even complete until you are in the room. You deserve to be in that room. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You deserve a seat at the table. 9 times out of 10, you built the table. Okay. And you don't have to explain to anyone or justify to anyone why you are here. Because what happens is, and I've been in these rooms, when you get into certain levels, folks look at you a certain way, don't know anything about you, and wonder how, how she get here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So understanding that you don't have to explain to anybody unless you going for a job and they want to know, or you're
Mm-hmm.
going for promotion. But when it comes to just doing your work, living your life in general,
Right.
no explanation necessary. And I will say, at these past couple of years in my life, I just don't explain stuff. I don't want to explain it.
Mm.
I just don't explain it.
Liberating. Mm-hmm.
It's so liberating. I share experience. I'll share experience with you. I had flown first class for the first time in my life. Um, Watching Stephanie and Rashida and those guys saying, "You need to live your life," and I said, "Let me go and fly first class."
Yes.
I had
Mm-hmm.
never done it in my life, and so I did, and I paid for it. I didn't do points or anything like that. I paid for it, and everybody who got on that plane, and I was sitting in the first seat. So as soon as you got in, you got to see my big happy face sitting there. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize what a big deal it was. I had people looking and it did not compute for them. I even had people, one of the people who sat next to me on one of the legs of the flight, he just kept looking at me and he finally said, "So what do you do?"
Hmm.
So I looked at him and I said, "I don't understand what you mean." And he says, "Well, what do you do?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I'm retired." He lost his complete mind. And so he said, "Well, how old are you?" I mean, this was just on the flight. And I told him how old I was. And I said, "How old are you? And what do you do?" He and I were
Mm-hmm.
the same age. He he
Mm.
was he was,
Uh-huh.
um, we were the same age, and he had a company. So I could see that the poor fella, he it just he needed further explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So I had decided that I was not going to be explaining to him. Basically what he wanted to know is, how did you retire so early? We were the same age and we were coming from another state, coming back to the same state and city. I live in Central California, small
Mm-hmm.
area. And that brother, he just was so he was so shook up. I ordered us some drinks. I ordered us some champagne. I said, "Let me get him something to drink." You know what I mean? Let me get him something to drink. You know what I mean?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I just felt bad for the fella because it just and I think what he was thinking of, because I could see it in his eyes. He's still working. He
Mm-hmm.
owns a company, and here is this woman, my same age,
Uh-huh.
was retired, sitting right next to me.
Yeah.
So I don't
Mm-hmm.
explain. I don't need to explain to you anything.
Mm-hmm.
We gonna order this champagne and we gonna toast to the fact that I'm retired and I'll be waiting
Yes.
for you on this side when you get here.
Oh my gosh, the confusion,
The
right?
man was
They can't
totally confused.
understand.
He did not compute.
They really can't understand, right? All these barriers that they intentionally put in place to try to suppress us, right? And that's the value of like sharing information, resources, like you said, watching Black women YouTubers to show us these different ways of living. That is
Mm-hmm.
the power, right? That we're able to like find a way
That's right.
within no way that they try to create. It's
That's
like
right.
we still can create a way, right? And they're just so
That's right.
confused. and
That's right.
perplexed.
That's right.
Like, how are you retired and I'm not?
That's right.
What?
That's right. And it's not my job to explain stuff to you.
Mm-hmm.
You made this game.
Mm-hmm.
You created the rules of this game.
Yeah.
You have all the advantages of this game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you want to know how this game works, go back and reread the instructions that you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
It's not my job to explain. I don't play mammy
Mm.
anymore.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never did, but I'm
Yeah.
not your mammy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was shook. So we got him a good drink to help him out. Okay. And we just
Ooh.
smiled. We clicked. We toasted a couple times. I'm gonna call him Brad. I said, "Well, congratulations on your business, Brad." And I think I even told him, "I'll see you on the other side when you retire." I can be
Yes.
kind of messy sometimes, but that's just what happened. It's
Ooh.
liberating.
Mm-hmm.
It's liberating.
Yes. And what was that transition where you decided I'm not explaining myself to other people anymore?
The transition really, really came when it started coming right before I left the workforce
Mm-hmm.
because I would be on high visibility projects
Mm-hmm.
and people would want to know, how is she on that project? Who is she? And I think what hit the nail on the coffin for me as it relates to not explaining at work was when I would be on a team and let's say it's a manual update. Maybe the project is we're going through the, operating manual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're updating it. And then I'll have somebody tell me, and this is true stuff, that'll say, well, the manual says A, B, C. I don't know if you know this, but the manual says A, B, C, and D in this area. Other
Mm-hmm.
people on the team would know who I am. And they would say, Colette, do they not know you wrote that part of the manual? So I would have to, oh my, I forgot to bring my charger in here. My in here. I would have to. I would just be quiet and let them figure out their situation because to me, you're talking to somebody who wrote something that you're quoting back to the author. I stopped
Oh
explaining,
my.
and I mean, would do
Ooh.
it with their full chest. And I think, and it's okay not to know, but to say, I don't think you're aware. Or even like when I would be on projects that had to do with updating legislative type actions that governed our program, the
Mm-hmm.
program report. And somebody would, come in, usually, not looking like us, trying to tell me what the law says. And people would have to tell them, she helped to word that. Do you know that she was da 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 da?
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
they would come to me and say, Colette, why don't you explain that to the people? And I told them, you know what? I'm not explaining to people anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm not explaining because I don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's additional labor on your part.
It's kind of like the people who say, like people who are the people who are racist say, can you teach me how not to be
Mm-hmm.
racist?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to me, how that's being racist? Now you can go Google how much
Yes.
your car costs from here. And if you bought your car from here and make a comparison, make a database decision, you can go YouTube University to see how much a house costs here. Now, you can do that about that.
Mm-hmm.
I have, I have 3 words. It's very simple about stop being racist. Just stop being racist.
Mm-hmm.
Not my job to explain it to you. And
Mm-hmm.
so Marissa, that's so freeing. Give me 2 seconds. I forgot to bring my charger. Do you mind
Absolutely.
giving me a second? Girl,
Yes.
I'm waiting
Yes.
to bring my charger.
And just going through my notes here, right? Student loan debt was mentioned. Something your generation had to endure that you hope younger Black women never normalize. I think debt is a huge part of the college experience of being told that we have to accumulate these degrees.
Right,
And I did a conversation on my channel actually with Alicia, talking about like our college experiences, how much debt we had accumulated, and being
okay,
told that that was the pathway to all these things, validation, right? These jobs often that didn't materialize, that they told us once you got this phantom job after you
right.
graduated, that would be your ticket to pay off this debt. We've seen the data has shown us that's not true. That's a
Mm-mm.
lie. One of the terms that came up in the research I mentioned on that video was Jim Crow debt, right?
Oh, yeah,
Because Black students are still being disproportionately impacted by these huge burdens at like we first enter college, right? 18, 19, 20 years old. I
right,
mean, having this for the rest of our lives because in many cases it's still not discharged with bankruptcy,
right,
student loan debt. And
right.
so it's attached to us throughout our whole lives, and we're being told this is the only pathway of success, right? Of validation, of being deemed worthy in the society. And so I hope by us sharing our experiences with just the university system, student
Yes,
loan debt, that other people, younger people, are able to see different alternatives outside of that
yes.
because it's a heavy burden to carry.
It's a heavy, heavy, heavy burden to carry.
Hmm.
And you brought up the word gatekeeping earlier. Um, Speaking of student loan debt, um, I had probably because I had my children. I told you both of them. They both graduated from some very I guess some prominent. They graduated from a prominent college. Okay,
Hmm.
both of them have a
Hmm.
bachelor's and a master's. The baby, my youngest, is still working on her master's. She graduate here in June. But during that time, I took out what's called parent loans for
Hmm.
them. In addition to the student loans I took out for my master's, I paid off the one for my bachelor's, but the one I took out for my master's and the one I took out for my doctorate, which I didn't finish my doctorate. I stopped at the dissertation level. I reached candidacy level. So I just need to go back and do the dissertation part. But anyway, what I'm getting at is I had almost $500,000 in student loan debt, combined student loan
Wow.
debt, mine
Hmm.
and theirs.
Yeah.
The gatekeeping part comes, or the not gatekeeping part comes in with us sharing information. So
Hmm.
one of the sisters who also had a channel, and I used to keep in contact a lot, and she just called me out of the blue, and she said, Maisha Francis,
Hmm.
Maisha, okay,
Yeah.
Maisha calls me and she says, Colette, you used to work for government, right? And I said, yeah. She says, girl, they're forgiving student loan debt, for public service. And she says, how long did you work for there? I said, almost 30 years. She says, have you applied for the public service student loan forgiveness program? I said, no. And she said, why not? She says, I'm getting ready to apply. So she gives me all the information. I was not
Hmm.
going to apply. I was not going to because I didn't think I would be eligible. That's
Hmm.
me, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
And some said apply. None but God said apply. And so she sent me the video. She said that they're going to deny it the first time. Keep applying. Da 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 da. So I ended up applying. All of that was
They
forgiven.
wiped it. Wow.
Got on the phone when I first was getting the information. This person was like, "Oh no, honey, you shouldn't even apply because they're not going to forgive it." I said, "Really?" And she says, "No, call back. Got another person, one of us."
Hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna just be real. I'm gonna be real funny. It's Shamika. I got
Hmm.
Shamika. Shamika said that they're forgiving it. I said, "Really?" And so I said, "Well, what's the criteria?" And she told me to tell me. She said, "Let me find out about what you did. And I told her, oh yeah, I worked almost 30 years, A, B, C, and D. And
Mhm.
so at that time, I didn't even know that my kids' stuff could be, they said, are you carrying it? I said, yeah, I am. They said, you need to consolidate it. So walk me through this process. Boom.
Mhm.
They're getting rid of that program. That's the program they're getting rid of.
Mm.
Now,
Mhm.
listen to what I'm going to say to you.
Mhm.
We get all these college degrees, right? And
Mhm.
we take them and present them to private industry
Yep.
for the executive job, for the whatever job. Do we normally get those jobs?
No.
Most of the time, we do not. So,
Mhm.
where do we end up working? We usually end up working where? In the public sector, whether
Mhm.
it's local government, state government, federal government. And that's what service loan forgiveness programs, that's who they're targeting, people who work in those sectors. Why? Because the rationale is one, if these people worked in private industry, they would be making at least 2 times the money they're making now. Even though
Mhm.
some of us made, like I made good money, okay? But I could have been making a lot more had I been in private sector at the level I was at. So this is a way for them to attract talent, right? Us, because a lot of times we're locked out of private sector,
Yeah.
we tend to be overrepresented in government.
Mhm.
So it does not surprise me that you have certain administrations trying to get rid of that program
Mm.
because the public service loan forgiveness program is a way to what? Wipe out that Jim Crow debt, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they've gone in, and I know we're getting off topic, but they've gone in and taken some particular occupations from being classified as professional, right?
Yes.
Why do you think
Mhm.
that happens? Who's represented in those fields,
Yeah.
right? Who's the most educated uh, demographic or population in the nation? Black
Mhm.
women.
Mhm.
So, getting back to gatekeeping, us understanding and talking to one another, saying, okay, this is what they're doing, but this is what you can do over here,
Mhm. Mhm.
not gatekeeping information. If
Right.
Maisha hadn't told me that, I wouldn't have done it.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And that's what I love about Black women. I love about our community.
Mhm.
We looking out for one. She was in Africa, I think, when she called me.
Mhm.
She might have been on a WhatsApp. I think she was in, yeah. So, what I love about our community is how we love each other deeply.
Mhm.
I love the community that we're building, that we're trying to, help each other
Yeah.
without being transactional,
Yes.
just
Ooh.
doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
And I think one time you asked me what kind of ancestor I want to be, or we talked about that. I want to be that ancestor that said, where they said, you know what? She showed me a way. She showed me a different way
Mhm. Yeah.
to liberation, however that looks.
Mhm. Powerful. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Yes.
I'm sure that's going to help a lot of people, right?
Yes.
And like you
'Cause-
said, with what we're seeing with the rollbacks of so many of these policies, right, that have been put into place, that have assisted us, right, in so many different ways, being rolled back intentionally because they
Yes.
are benefiting us, right? And we see the anti-blackness in the policy decisions on full display. Um, they want to continue to suppress us, to try to keep us in this position that they've created for us, and we continue to transcend. And again, going back to the man on the airplane, they just can't put two and two. How is this? How
Doesn't compute.
right?
Doesn't compute. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I just want us to not spend so much time trying to explain stuff to
Mhm.
folks. to make them understand that we deserve to be wherever we are and live our lives. Let them stay confused.
Ooh,
You know,
wow.
let them stay confused because, and not that I love anybody who loves me. I love everybody. Actually, I don't wish any ill will towards anybody, but I think that any idea that we as African Americans owe somebody a debt is 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 not true. The debt has been
Mm-hmm.
paid.
Mm-hmm.
The debt
Mm-hmm.
has been paid,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I am real clear. I'm very, very clear that I don't owe that debt that people try to put on us. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
spoke about the worthiness, the debt of having to produce before I get rest and before I feel worthy. I was born worthy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was born worthy, right? And I feel like I want my sisters to know you are worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah.
Do that mean we perfect? No, it don't mean we
Mm-hmm.
perfect. It means that when God created me, or he created me the way that I am, and I was already worthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And just because somebody does not recognize you as a diamond because they see a piece of
Mm-hmm.
coal, which becomes a diamond under pressure,
Mm-hmm.
that does not devalue the coal.
Yes.
That
Mm-hmm.
person's perspective is off. You are still valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And
I
I
do.
see so many of us, um, not as many as before. Some of us are waking up, but I see so many of us trying to, I'm worthy, I'm worthy. You are worthy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna tell you right now, you're worthy. And you don't have to be perfect.
And you don't have to be perfect.
Heck no. You don't have to be perfect. You are worthy. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Period.
And that's
You
so
know,
important.
the period with the T at the end. Period.
Yes. Oh, we have so many more questions,
Go
but I
ahead.
realize we're getting to the top of the hour.
I'm okay. If you're okay, I'm
Um,
okay. It's up to you.
I got a few minutes to stay a little past the hour, but yes, I do want to ask, as we're winding down this conversation, something you admire about how younger Black women are redefining success, power, or rest.
You know, one of the things I admire, I'm gonna say this, it may seem petty to other people, but I really admire how you young sisters wear your hair
Mm.
naturally if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
See, when I was in the workplace and growing up, we were taught that we had to have a relaxer and we couldn't wear braids because it was unprofessional. But um, I actually love the fact my daughter, my youngest one, actually, uh, is one who got me and my young oldest daughter wearing our hair natural. And I will still put something on there if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go away from that. But
Yeah.
I love that. And I love how unapologetically proud you guys are of just wearing your hair the way you want and moving on with it and looking
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other part of that question?
Redefining success, power, or rest. Anything you admire about how younger Black women are viewing these things.
I like how they also, the younger generation, I like how they, um, and I don't like the word hustle, but they have taken the energy, um, taken the energy that they have, like let's say they don't like a job or something, and they create their own stuff. Now, we've always done that in our community. My
Mhm.
grandparents, everybody has always had a side hustle forever because that's how they paid the bills. They worked and they had a side hustle, usually two or
Mhm.
three of them, right?
Yeah.
But I like how your generation and the ones younger, they're taking that to another level. They're like, you know what? I don't like how you showing up for me. You don't serve me. And they go make their own
Mm.
business. I
Mhm.
love it.
Mhm.
I love it because they're like, if I want to go back into the workplace, I will. But right now, I'm going to sell this hair bomb,
Uh-huh.
or I'm going to, I've been looking at these people's applications and looking at how people are hired. I'm going to open a business doing resumes. And
Mhm.
so those are the things that I like to do on my channel is to help uh, Black women identify transferable skills, which I did when I was working
Yes. Uh-huh.
as a manager, when I used to do career coaching for my staff, the indirect staff and my direct staff. I would help them identify transferable skills, like if they wanted to promote or go to another job and they say, "Oh, I don't have the skills." Well, you do this, that's the same as this.
Mhm.
So I love that. I love um, that the young sisters are doing that. Um, I love that they are, and we call it intrapreneurship. So while they're on their job, and I did that while I was on my job, they're taking those skills that they learning, and they're like, "Oh, that's gonna make me some money when I
Mm. Mhm.
place."
Yep.
I love it. And then the other thing I like how they came up with they doing mini breaks and mini sabbaticals, and I'm loving it because I'm like, okay, how y'all do? I love y'all, you know, because when I was working, I didn't do that. I worked all the time, and I had two little girls that depended on me having a job, so
Mhm.
I rarely took. In fact, my first vacation that I just took just to be a vacation was the one I took when I went on the cruise early in January. That's the first vacation I ever took in my whole life as an adult, where it wasn't tied to me going to a conference, where it
Wow.
wasn't tied to me going to a workshop, where it wasn't
Mhm.
tied to me taking my children somewhere. It's the first vacation that I took for myself ever in my life. Yes,
Wow.
I went to South Africa last year for a month, but my daughter got injured, so I went over
Mhm.
there for that. So though
Right.
I, spent time over there for a month, it was for another reason other than for me to rest and to
Mhm.
have, recreation time. Yeah, but the first one was so I like how these sisters is like, I got to take me a vacation, and they take it.
Yes, that's what I have on my list too, right? Solo travel.
Yeah,
Um, just being like not having validation in a partner necessarily, but in yourself. If you want to travel somewhere, right? If you want to experience these different things, I know that Gen Z has just been so inspirational for me on this journey to say, like, oh, I can do this thing by myself, right? I can
mhm,
like go out to eat by myself. Yes. I can
yeah,
take myself on a date. Yes, I can,
yeah, yeah.
right? And then not feel any shame about it.
My daughter took herself on a date. I said, "You did what?" She 28. She said, "Oh, I took myself on a date." I'm like, "Oh, how does that work?" And she said, "I had a good."
Yes.
She said she had a good time.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
Oh,
yeah,
and it's
I love
free.
it, and it's yeah,
Mhm.
it, I love it. I love it. I look at Stephanie and Rashida, and they just doing their thing, unbothered,
Mhm.
unbothered.
Mhm.
In fact, looking at them is what encouraged me to do the first class thing, to take my first
Mhm.
first class flight,
Mhm.
you know. So and solo travel, I don't, I just, I'm like, look at them. They're
Yes.
all younger than me, and I'm like, look at them,
It's so
So
inspiring,
yeah,
right? And
it
to
is
be able to do things that call to you, right? To have a very like firm sense of identity, because that's something I've just developed, I think, in the past like few years, because I was always chasing
right.
things externally, like acceptance, belonging, these credentials, and not really having like a firm sense of my personal identity.
Mm,
And I think when you do spend time with yourself, like doing things that you like to do, pouring into yourself, right? Traveling places that you want to, it helps really like solidify that. So when you do get into places where people try to challenge that identity, it's too deeply rooted, right? To
Yeah.
be swayed,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
think is
And I admire you too, because when you were in Mexico, I'm like, she where? I'm like, I was looking on like a proud big sister, because it's
oh,
like,
thank
oh, what?
you.
She in Mexico? What? And so I just think it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's amazing. And so those are things I admire. So many more, so many more. I admire like Alicia Renese, how she said, I'm gonna do some traveling in her car, in her van,
Yeah.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna sing in the forests, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's inspiring because what it demonstrates is that success is not a one fit all.
Ooh.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Success
Yes.
is not a one fit all. And
Yeah.
success does not necessarily have all these tangible things, the car, the house that we attach to success,
Yes.
because those things are good if that's what you want. But if that's not how you identify success, and you identify it in terms of having time freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of having being able to do something to earn income if you need it from anywhere in the world that
Mm-hmm.
you want to be in.
Yeah.
To me, that's more important, and I can say that as a person who has had the car, who has had the house,
Mm-hmm.
you know, saying, hey, I'm feeling the time freedom thing. I'm feeling the location, not being location dependent, you know.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So you guys have taught me those things and those terms.
Mm. Thank you for that.
Thank
Um,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And what that's bringing up is like self-determination, right?
Mm,
You get to determine what your values are,
yeah.
what like speaks to you, what kind of life you want to build versus this like as you said, one size fits all. Everyone has to follow this exact same path. Rushni Glamazzini on YouTube
Mm,
says like the
yeah.
conveyor belt, right? So you get up on the conveyor belt and you're supposed to just like go through all these steps that society tells you to go through. But what if that's not fulfilling you? And to
Right.
know that you have the ability, you have the agency to determine that for yourself. Um, Black women are really leading the charge as we always have been, right? In seeing these different options that exist outside of what's told to us as this is the only path. Like we're
Hmm.
proving that to be untrue. No, it's not.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here for it. I'm here
Mm-hmm.
for it. I love it. And I'm proud of you guys. When you were talking about the conveyor belt, it reminds me of when I was younger. We would see the little chicks on the conveyor belt,
Uh-huh.
and one chick would always go over this way, and the hand would push it back. And so, to
Uh-huh.
me, I see Black women who doing their thing. They're that little chick on a
Wow.
conveyor belt, but they look like they just not gonna let the hand push it back. They're ducking under the hand. They're not gonna push you back in
It's
the
true.
conveyor, right? Because the
Yeah.
conveyor belt, those chicks, they represent conformity, right? And so we're like,
Ooh.
I, you know, I, I'm not going, I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to us and our hair, I saw somebody say, why is your hair like that? And they're like, it grows out of my head that way. And not being unashamed. So not getting back into the conveyor belt of, okay, he asked me this and she asked me that. So now I got to relax my hair. Now I got to press my hair. If you want to do that, that's fine. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
No
Mm-hmm.
worries. But knowing that the narrative is not my narrative, may not be your narrative, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And I no longer allow other people to write my narrative. And I have to be honest with you, for years, I grew up seeking approval from different people, mostly my parents, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But my values are not their values. Not that their values aren't good, right? They're
Right.
different.
They're different.
They're
Mm-hmm.
different, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they're different. So,
Yep.
and I want my children, one thing I want them to understand is they get to pick their values. Now, there's certain basic things, be human, be a kind person, be a decent human being. That's different. That's character. But their values, they get to pick what they. I may not agree with their values.
Mhm.
You know, I may not agree with them, and I don't agree with some of their values. They're different than mine, but not making them feel like, okay, you got to come over to my side. No,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, you get to write your own story.
I love that.
Yeah,
Reclaiming your narrative is so
yeah.
important. Like you said, let them stay confused,
Let them stay confused.
right? If someone doesn't get why do you have those values? Why do you want to do this? Right? Once you have that really like firm rooting of who you are, as I've like learned now in my 30s, like that is what you really need to navigate because especially as a black woman, like people will try to like sway you so many different directions that they want you to go in,
That's
right?
right.
To conform, to
That's
fit in the
right.
boxes that they've created.
That's right.
And so you have to have this like unshakable sense of self and give yourself grace,
That's
right?
right.
If you do experience some of these things where you do bend a little bit, you can always bend back, right?
That's
Trees
right.
tell us that all
That's
the
right.
time.
That's right.
So I love that. Yes.
Love it.
Let me read
Yeah,
the
that's right.
comment.
Ah,
Yes.
love
I
it.
date myself regularly. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
What kind of date are
Glorious
you,
metal.
honey? What kind of date are you? I will, inquiring minds want to know.
Yes.
She's a
Thank
great
you
date,
so
I'm sure.
much. Kiki says my mom needs to listen to this because I need to spend my birthdays alone, yet she appears to pity me for it. I pity her for her perspective. Thank you
Oh,
for sharing this.
yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think
mom,
it goes back to what we are
yeah,
talking, like what are your values, right?
yeah,
You value solo time, alone time, right? And not
yeah,
everyone shares that value. And I think just having that understanding.
yeah,
And what's been coming up for me is like humility. I think
yes,
it's so important, right?
yeah,
Because I don't know, that's when you don't have that level of humility, it cuts you off from learning from
yes,
generations that are coming up, right? Because you think
yeah,
that you have all the answers and that
yeah,
you know everything in all these things that you still have to learn, right? That people are
but
experiencing coming up after you.
yes, so much,
Mhm,
so much. And
mhm,
going back to Kiki, can you bring her back? Kiki's, you know, I'm her mom. Okay, I'm her mom because I do that to my children. I want to be with them all the time. They live in another city, but on their birthdays, I want to be with my babies, right? And I
mhm,
do get attitude if they don't want to be with me. But I start when I was looking at her statement, I started thinking, a lot of that has to do with me working all the time when they were kids, and now trying to make up for that time. They
mhm.
grown. They want their time. They want to go with their friends, but I want to hang out with them. You know what I mean? So Kiki, you got to help raise your mama. My kids are helping to raise me. So now they sit me down and they'll tell me, mommy, I need this, this, and this and that. And so I say, okay. Now it takes me some time. But me and my older daughter was just talking. In fact, I sent her a Instagram post the other day about these people saying how hard it is to raise their parents. So just help raise your parents, Kiki. We a hot mess. We a hot mess. We be trying to live through y'all. Okay, we be trying to get mad with your friends and things when your friends don't treat you right. We just want to be around our kids, but we gotta let y'all live your life and live ours.
Thank you for that. Inglorious Metal says, I'm a generous dater, only the best.
Hey,
Also, everyday luxuries.
oh, that's right. You deserve it. I love with the name Glorious Metal. We,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't expect anything less. Okay.
We love to see it. Thank you. Thank you.
I love it.
Yes, as we are winding down this conversation, I would love to end on the question what self love looks like in practice for you now. not conceptually, but day to day, like the things that you're doing, like to preserve your wellness, to preserve your well being, to show yourself love, care, rest, all these things that are a birthright. Anything you want to share?
So the main thing is I do not have an alarm. Like I had one for today for me to come meet you,
Mhm.
but I get up when I want. When people ask me, "Oh, are you going to do this and this and that?" and they ask me what time, I don't. I say when I get up. Well, what time you get up? When I get up. And
Ooh.
so my family is trained. They know. My mom, everybody know. My cousins, they know. She probably taking a nap. And so I get up when I want to. Um, to me, that is self care. And
Mhm.
I started walking. I'm
Mhm.
starting to spend more time focusing on my health.
Mhm.
You know, um, that's self care, not because I'm doing it for anybody but me,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is if I don't want to do something, I just say I'm not doing it. I don't try to give no explanations or
Mhm.
nothing. I just say I'm not doing that, or no, I'm not going there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so that's self care for me because I spent a lot of my life running and doing um, for other people stuff I didn't
Mhm.
really necessarily want to do, but I did it because now I don't allow myself to feel guilty when I say no. I just do not allow it. And it took me a long time to get to that, like
Mhm.
years. But I just do not allow myself to feel guilt when I say no.
Mhm.
You know, I don't allow myself to feel guilt when I need to take a break. What about you?
I love that. I have taken deep breaths. One of the trauma responses that I developed throughout my life is holding my breath when I'm
Mm,
stressed. And so to show myself love at this age is really like being intentional about I need oxygen, right? To have all access to my brain, all the bodily functions, like I need to breathe deeply. And so it's just checking in with myself, like, am I in this response again? Being gentle with myself, giving myself grace, and then moving back to taking in deep breaths, right? So intentional deep breathing has been helpful. Doing creative passion, so re-exploring writing, doing stuff like this, creating on YouTube, things that I had put away within like the conformity of
mm,
my 20s. My 20s was like high conformity time for me. And so being able to re explore these different creative passions has been so important for me for self love. Eating what makes my body feel good, listening to music, going to parks, touching trees. I love trees, playing with my dog. Different like scents that make me
mm,
happy. So I have a candle here, different perfumes and like body oils that I love. And traveling has
mm,
been a huge part of self love for me
mhm,
too. Like seeing different places, seeing different cultures, immersing myself, just to grow my own understanding.
mhm.
It's been a practice of self love over the past what, like 3 years since I've been traveling internationally. So
Wow.
yeah. Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. I love that you guys are learning this younger, at a younger age.
Hmm.
I love it. That's one thing I wanted to add
Hmm.
that, and I was talking to my daughters about this is I told them that I love the fact that they are understanding the importance and they're prioritizing self-care at their age and not waiting until they're like me at my late 50s to do that.
Hmm.
I love it, because it gives other women permission to do the same thing. So I'm so happy that you're doing that. When you were talking about the drawing, and the touching trees and things like that, those are things we did as children, but we were told we need to stop doing it. We got to start
Hmm.
working on stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Get back on the conveyor belt, right?
right, yes.
Uh, hmm.
So I I like this new thing. It's not new, but I like the freedom and the liberty that I'm seeing our young Black women, participate in for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
for themselves.
For themselves.
Yes.
Yes. Well, yes, this has been a beautiful, beautiful conversation. And this is part two, so please check out part one on Colette's channel,
Yes.
um, of our conversation of intergenerational healing, things that we're learning, right, in our 60s and 30s, respectively.
Mhm.
Anything else that you want to share before we wind down our conversation tonight?
We got to do a part 3 and 4. We got to keep it going.
Keep it going. We still have more questions too.
Yeah, just let me
Yeah,
know.
we do.
Do the next one on mine and let me know when.
Okay. I
Yeah,
absolutely will.
we gotta keep it. We gotta keep it going.
Yes.
Thank
And I
you
do
so
want to
much.
mention, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Colette will be one of our speakers at
Oh,
the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women. So please get on the wait list as we are behind the scenes building, preparing, strategizing. But it will be held online May 1st through the 3rd. And Colette will be speaking about FMLA, short term disability, using your benefits to make your strategy, um, which we've heard a lot that people could use
mhm.
information on that. So I'm really excited for your session, Colette.
Thank you.
And just
Thank you for having
read
me.
some of these. You're so welcome. Some of these last comments. So happy I was here for the live. We're so glad that you were here.
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes,
Yay. Yes. It's beautiful to see the younger generation experience freedoms we didn't have. Ooh.
yes, it's true. Love it.
Mhm. Thank you for that.
Love it.
And Sade says, thank you for sharing. You are so welcome.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
y'all. Yes, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for those of you who are in the chat contributing to the conversation. Thank you if you're watching the replay. Please subscribe to Colette's channel, Colette Elizabeth on YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel. And yeah, we'll have to host a part three in the
We gotta
future
do
because
a part two.
this is healing,
This is. I love
right?
it. I'm feeling it. It's like, woo. Hey,
Yes.
South Africa in the house. Hey, I'm trying
Thank
to
you for
get back around
joining.
your way, Carol Collins, 3108. I loved my time in Joburg. I
Yes.
had a good time.
Yes. And Kiki says, timely topic with so much wisdom. Thank y'all. You are so
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you.
Yes, y'all. Until next time, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your evening. And yes, look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, y'all. Thank you so
Am I
much.
staying on? Am I staying
Yes.
on? Okay.
Yes.